Welcome back to the IS Companion. Emergency Provisions in the Indian Constitution. Good day, esteemed colleagues and students. Today, we embark on a comprehensive journey through the emergency provisions enshrined in the Indian Constitution, from Articles 350 to 360. These provisions serve as a bulwark against unforeseen crises, allowing the central government to navigate through turbulent times effectively. Let us delve deeper into the rationale behind their inclusion and their implications for the democratic fabric of our nation. Understanding emergency provisions, safeguarding national interests. The incorporation of emergency provisions in the Constitution aims to uphold the sovereignty, unity, integrity, and security of our nation. By granting extensive powers to the central government during times of crisis, these provisions serve as a safeguard for our democratic political system and the Constitution itself. Types of emergencies responding to varied challenges. 1. National emergency, Article 350 to declared in the face of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. A national emergency grants the central government sweeping authority to address threats to national security. This unique feature allows for the transformation of the federal structure into a unitary one, ensuring swift and coordinated action. 2. Failure of constitutional machinery in states. Article 356, popularly known as Precedence Rule. This emergency is invoked when the constitutional machinery in a state fails to function effectively. It empowers the central government to assume control over the state's administration, safeguarding democratic principles and restoring stability. 3. Financial emergency. Article 360 triggered by a threat to India's financial stability or credit. A financial emergency empowers the central government to take measures to address economic challenges swiftly. This provision underscores the importance of fiscal prudence in maintaining the country's economic integrity. National emergency, grounds and implications. The declaration of a national emergency can stem from threats of war, external aggression, or armed rebellion, even before their actual occurrence, if imminent danger is perceived. Differentiated into external and internal emergencies, each type addresses specific threats to national security, allowing for targeted responses. The proclamation of a national emergency requires the concurrence of the cabinet, ensuring collective decision-making and accountability. Parliamentary approval is mandatory within 1 month of the emergency declaration, with provisions for periodic extensions subject to parliamentary scrutiny. Impact of national emergency. Executive, legislative, and financial ramifications. The centralization of executive authority empowers the central government to issue directives to states on any matter, ensuring uniformity of action. Parliament gains expansive legislative powers, enabling it to legislate on subjects typically within the purview of state legislatures, effectively suspending federal principles temporarily. Financial adjustments, including modifications to revenue distribution between the center and states, bolster the central government's ability to address economic challenges swiftly and decisively. Revocation and oversight, ensuring checks and balances. The revocation of a national emergency is subject to presidential discretion, with provisions for parliamentary oversight and resolution. Parliamentary approval for the continuation of emergency measures ensures ongoing scrutiny and accountability, safeguarding against potential misuse of emergency powers. Impact on fundamental rights, balancing security and liberties. The suspension of certain fundamental rights during a national emergency underscores the imperative of balancing security imperatives with individual liberties. While the suspension of Article 19 rights is automatic, subject to presidential discretion, Article 359 empowers the President to suspend enforcement of specified fundamental rights during emergencies. The distinction between Articles 358 and 359 delineates the scope and duration of fundamental rights suspension, ensuring clarity and accountability. Historical context and reforms, learning from past experiences. Historical instances of emergency declarations, including those in response to external aggression and internal disturbances, offer valuable lessons in crisis management and governance. Reforms introduced post-emergency periods, such as the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, underscore the importance of checks and balances in preventing potential abuses of emergency powers. Let us now begin with President's Rule. Article 355 of the Constitution charges the Centre with ensuring that every state's government operates in accordance with constitutional provisions. In cases of failure, Article 356, popularly known as President's Rule, can be invoked. This constitutional emergency, also termed state emergency, grants the President authority to take over a state's governance when its machinery fails to comply with the Constitution. President's Rule can be imposed on two grounds. First, when a situation arises where the state government cannot function as per constitutional norms, and second, when a state fails to comply with or implement directives from the centre. Parliamentary approval is necessary within 2 months of proclamation issuance. If the Lok Sabha dissolves during this period, approval is sought within 30 days of its reconstitution. The duration of President's Rule initially spans 6 months and can be extended for up to 3 years with parliamentary approval. The 44th Amendment Act of 1978 imposed constraints on extending President's Rule beyond a year, requiring a national emergency proclamation and certification by the Election Commission. The President can revoke this proclamation without parliamentary approval. Under President's Rule, the President assumes state government functions, suspends or dissolves the Legislative Assembly, and exercises legislative powers. However, the authority of the State High Court remains intact. Since its inception, President's Rule has been invoked over 125 times, sparking debates over its misuse for political purposes. Notable instances include its imposition after the 1977 and 1980 general elections. Judicial review plays a crucial role in evaluating the validity of President's Rule. The Supreme Court's Bommai case established criteria for its imposition, emphasizing the importance of relevant material and adherence to constitutional principles. Moving on to financial emergency, Article 360 empowers the President to declare it if the financial stability or credit of India or any part thereof is threatened. Unlike President's Rule, there's no prescribed duration for a financial emergency, which continues until revoked by the President. During a financial emergency, the centre assumes control over states' financial matters, issuing directives and implementing austerity measures. However, concerns have been raised regarding its potential threat to states' financial autonomy. Critics argue that emergency provisions undermine federalism, concentrate power in the centre, and jeopardize fundamental rights. Nevertheless, proponents view them as essential safeguards to maintain constitutional order and address exceptional circumstances. The emergency provisions embodied in the Indian Constitution serve as a testament to our nation's resilience in the face of adversity. By balancing the imperatives of security, unity, and democracy, these provisions underscore the strength of our constitutional framework. As we navigate through uncertain times, let us reaffirm our commitment to upholding democratic values and principles, ensuring that emergency powers are wielded judiciously and in the service of the common good. While President's Rule and financial emergency are vital tools to address governance and financial crisis, their potential for misuse underscores the need for robust checks and balances to uphold democratic principles and protect citizens' rights. As we navigate the complexities of constitutional governance, let us remain vigilant in safeguarding the spirit of democracy and constitutionalism. Thank you for your attention.